Hello and welcome to Stupid Ancient History with Midgley
and Taylor, and our expert, non-expert and special guest, James, Lord High Commander for the Science Cupboard, first of his name and knower of nothing.
Hello.
As always, we're wearing togas, it's a sunny day, and today we're going to look at the continuing adventures of Tullus Hostilius and Mettius Fufetius. Previously on Stupid Ancient History, we've been looking at the very early stages of the foundations of Rome, from Romulus founding the city on Palatine Hill,
After being saved from the river by a she-wolf.
Or a prostitute. I'm never letting that go.
No, don't ever let that
I've
go,
been to Rome,
James.
there's wolves everywhere, and it's going to ruin it for me next time I'm
I
there.
thought you were going to say there were prostitutes everywhere.
There could have been, I don't really know how to spot them.
Moving on.
No comment.
Then, after 37 years in power, he was replaced by Numa Pompilius, a Sabine who went about reorganising Rome, making them more obedient to the gods and generally a bit more peaceful.
He also built the Temple of Janus, introduced a 12-month calendar, and made the priest of Jupiter a full-time job.
He's not the most exciting man.
No, he was a bit dull.
Yeah. And then we get to Tullus Hostilius, Rome's third king, declaring war on the Albans.
And then getting a bunch of triplets to do his fighting for him.
And knife the sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Typical family day out.
It wasn't a great day, was it? Now, if you remember, we ended the previous episode with this negotiated peace between Rome and Alba Longa following the Roman victory in the said triplet fight.
Yeah. So this effectively meant that Alba Longa was now subject state of Rome, or a subject state of Rome, should I say. So they had to pledge loyalty to Rome, especially during times of war, but they could keep their own kings and customs. So they're just like an army, aren't they? They're an extended addition to Rome's army.
Yeah.
Really?
Pretty much. And obviously after the death of the original king during this war, in Alba Longa, Mettius Fufetius has now become the full-time king or leader of the Albans.
Is that a common name for Albans?
Don't know. Maybe he was king because he had the best name.
I mean, it's not the worst way to elect someone.
No.
No, definitely not. And as well as having a king with an amazing name, they were also happy because they were very peaceful and everything was going quite well. However, Rome soon found itself fighting another local war.
Is this Tullus just making a war up
They
again,
just
basically?
can't, yeah, they just can't be calm for too long.
Not necessarily. Hold your horses there, because it's not necessarily Tullus's fault this time.
Okay.
It's your friend. It seems that it's Mettius who's
Oh,
been
no.
going round. He's hell-bent on war, and he's stirring the pot. Or as Livy puts it,
So, as before he had made peace in wartime, now he aimed for war in peacetime. He realised that his state had more courage than his strength, so Mettius pushed other peoples into war with Rome, but he kept for his own Albans the position of Rome's allies with a dishonest intention.
Right, okay.
see, he's got a cool name.
It's a bit of a wrong one.
Bit of a Roman, bit of a snake.
So he's after a fight. What's his big master plan? More triplets? Quintuplets?
Not quite. So it's pretty clear that Mettius wasn't too happy playing second fiddle to Tullus and Rome, so he set about finding ways to challenge their control. But rather than doing it himself, he spent some time convincing other Roman colonies or cities that had been subdued by Rome to rebel.
So he's just stirring the
He's
pot.
a massive stirrer. He's got the biggest wooden spoon going, basically. Yeah, he's just kind of caused trouble, isn't he? Whip up trouble.
So who's he gone to?
Well, his plan is to get the Fidenae to rebel against Rome on the promise that when Rome calls for the Albans to help sort them out, the Albans just won't. So the Fidenae are another little local town.
Right, okay.
So he's saying, it's all right, Rome will call for us to help crush you. We'll just stay at home that day.
Yeah, so they're convinced by this argument. They obviously believe what he's saying, and they duly start. Yeah, stupid. They duly start to revolt with another Roman colony, the VA, who also think that they will benefit from their independence.
Right.
And sure enough, as the rebellion begins, Tullus calls upon Mettius and the Albans to help him fight the rebels.
Okay.
Plan's working perfectly.
So does Mettius Fufetius just not bother turning up?
You just can't say it's just one name, can you?
Well, no, because someone might confuse him with the other Mettius.
It just flows, doesn't it? It just rolls off the tongue, that name.
I'm going to guess that if he doesn't turn up to a fight, Tullus is going to be rather miffed.
Well, yeah, Mettius isn't that stupid that he would openly defy Tullus. So instead he has a much kind of sneakier idea. So not wanting to anger Tullus, he and the Alban legions march off to meet Tullus on the battlefield.
So doing exactly what he was asked to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far. And as the armies meet near the river, Tullus lines up the Roman soldiers opposite the Veian troops, and he orders Mettius to line up his troops opposite the Fidenate troops.
Okay.
Yeah, so you fight them, I'll fight these. All is good. Livy tells it like this.
But the Alban Mettius had as little bravery as he had loyalty, and he dared not stay in position or openly retreat, and instead withdrew gradually towards the mountains. When he thought that he was far enough away, he stopped his whole army, and still unsure what to do, he began to get his men ready for attack, as a way of gaining time, intending to join the winning side.
I like that. So he just kind of
Yeah.
slowly crept back. It's like, I'll just eventually turn up and go with the winner.
Yeah, that's it. He's not openly running off. He's just like, we're just going to move over here a bit.
I mean, you say he's not openly running off, but I don't think I'm going to miss an army moonwalking away from the battlefield.
That would be great. That would be
He's
exciting
literally
to
just trying to
behold.
sidle off from the side. He's like the person who comes on in a school play and shouldn't be there and tries to
Yeah.
style it out.
So just so I can conceptualise it, at this
Yeah.
point, because you're still calling Rome like a town at this point,
Yeah.
aren't you? When we say that army, do we know
Yeah.
how big, how many men we talking?
Well, Livy will say it's thousands, but it's
Yeah.
clearly not thousands. It's hundreds,
Okay.
probably. So yeah, there's 100 guys
Just
slowly edging off, hoping no one notices. But obviously, I mean, this is potentially an outright disaster for Tullus. Half of the force he thought he was fighting with have just slowly
Just shuffled off.
scuttling away. But the other problem is, parts of his own army, who are stationed nearest the Albans, can plainly see what's happening, and they're like, "Hey, where are they going? What's going on?" And they're starting to worry.
You would be though, wouldn't you? You'd even if you weren't worried, you'd be a bit distracted.
You'd be annoyed. It's like, "Oh, where are you going, mate?"
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it could have caused real problems in that they could have thought, oh right, we must be going that way now, and just start like following them. You know, like children just like follow each
I
other.
like the fact that armies you think will wander off.
Yeah, just like, oh, they're going over there. Maybe we should go with them. Let's go.
Oh, there's a bird over there. Let's go see that squirrel.
So anyway, but there is a horseman who is sent to tell Tullus what is happening. So someone's got the right idea. And that basically half of the army is effectively doing a runner, and the Romans are now completely outnumbered.
So it's not going great.
It's not going
Not
great.
really.
So Tullus doesn't have just some triplets or twins or someone knocking about he can just call up to sort his problems out.
No, unfortunately not, James. There are no angry, beefed up family members to swing in and save the day. It all depends on Tullus. But rather than panic, which I think is what most people would probably do, Tullus decides to turn this betrayal to his advantage and decides that he's going to style it out.
How do you style out a betrayal?
We'll find out.
Well, he simply blags loud enough and for all to hear that this is actually part of his plan all along.
How close is other army they can hear him?
He's a
bragging?
pretty loud guy. I
Okay.
mean, not Taylor loud, but loud.
I was going to say, I'd be fine on a battlefield.
So yeah, he basically says, "Yeah, no, this is fine," or as Livy puts it,
He shouted in a voice loud enough for the enemy to hear and ordered the horsemen back into the line. He said there was no reason to be afraid and that the Alban army was turning on his orders to attack the unguarded back of the Fidenate forces. Then he ordered the cavalry to raise their spears. This meant that a lot of the Roman infantry couldn't see the Albans withdrawing, and even those who had seen it thought that this was part of Tullus's plan, so they fought more fiercely.
Okay, so he stopped his own men legging it, but he still lost half his army.
yeah, he's still outnumbered, but handily, this yelling at the top of his voice has another effect. Because a lot of the soldiers they're about to fight, a lot of these Fidenate soldiers, they've learned to speak Latin from being a Roman colony.
Right, okay.
So when he's yelling that this is fine and the cavalry are just going to attack from behind, they can hear him and they understand perfectly well what he's saying.
Yeah, especially the bit about attacking the enemy from behind.
Yeah, they don't like that
Okay.
at all.
It's important to know that that's going to happen in any situation.
So anyway, panic now spreads through the VN and Fidenate forces. So they start panicking. It's brown trousers for everyone.
Time for a big fight.
Yeah, but don't forget, Tullus is more warlike than Romulus.
So he's a nutter.
He's a nutter. Yeah, he's got like 2 weapons. He's shouting at the top of his lungs. Yeah, he's definitely someone that's in it for a good scrap. So, inspired by Tullus's words, Livy tells us that the Romans quickly began kind of piling into the enemy forces, and they just start hacking and slashing and hitting and stabbing and biting.
Biting?
Why not? So the Fidenates, gripped by the fear of being surrounded, and now the fact that you've got a whole bunch of angry Romans coming and attacking, they quickly leg it. They're having none of this. Tullus then turns around on the Viaeans with even more bloodlust.
And does what to them? After biting them and scratching them and...
Well, the Viaeans stand no chance on their own, and they quickly run away. I mean, they're trying to get to the other side of this river as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it doesn't help them though, because the Romans chased after them, and many of them were killed on the banks of the river as they were trying to flee.
Okay.
Literally chopping them up as they're off. And Livy says there was no fiercer battle fought by the Romans.
Ever?
Apparently not.
Wow.
And that was just Tullus. It was just him. Just him on his own.
So even though Mettius Fufetius picked up his ball and went home, basically, Tullus still won?
Oh yeah, completely. But let's not let that get in the way of some glory seeking. The fact that Mettius ran off, trying to cover up the fact that they'd spent basically the whole battle hiding behind a hill.
Bravely ran away.
He was strategically outflanking that bush. That's what he was doing.
Strategic run.
It wasn't even a run, was it? It was like a strategic scuttle.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Albans decide we'd better do something, show up at the end. So Livy tells us,
Then the Alban army, who had been watching the battle, went down onto the plain. Mettius praised Tullus for defeating the enemy, and Tullus spoke politely to Mettius. With a prayer for success, Tullus ordered that the Romans and Albans camp together.
There's no way he got away with that.
well, it would seem so.
For now, anyway. So the 2 armies camp and celebrate for the night, and the following morning both armies were called to an assembly. So the Albans weren't used to this idea of kind of a morning assembly, just like our kids aren't used to it anymore because of lockdown. And so they were keen to see kind of what was going on. So they were told to gather, but without their weapons.
Are they stupid enough to do that?
Yeah. Yes, they are. And they duly turn up unarmed, because you don't need a sword in an assembly.
This is sounding very Sabine sort of thing.
So anyway, general rule of thumb, you don't need a sword in an assembly, do you?
Again, it
I mean,
depends which...
that is the message that we give to our children, isn't it?
Assemblies, no swords, please. So anyway, as soon as the Albans turn up unarmed, like a Christmas goose, they are soon surrounded by the Romans who gathered behind them.
And are also armed to the teeth.
Of course they are.
Of course they are!
Why did they think they wouldn't be?
Hey, Mettius, can you spell trap?
Do you like my knife?
Oh, that sounds wrong.
So, even though the Albans like just sauntered away midway through a fight, are they actually just going to massacre a lot of them?
Well, no, I mean, that might be a bit too much.
Even for Tullus Hostilius.
Even for Tullus Hostilius. So, once the Albans are surrounded...
And also bricking themselves about the Romans and what they're going to do.
They're
standard.
You're
Yeah.
stupid enough to turn up without your swords. I mean,
You deserve what's coming to
they
you,
do,
don't you,
they
James?
really do.
Bad preparation.
So anyway, they're all there. Tullus begins to address the crowd with the following.
Romans, if ever there was a reason why you should give thanks in war to the immortal gods and to your own courage, then it should be for yesterday's battle. We were not only fighting an enemy, but also, and far more dangerously, the dishonesty and betrayal of our allies. Ooh, burned. I did not order the Albans to retreat to the hills. That was not part of my battle plan. I just pretended that it was.
Right, so they're definitely getting hacked a little bit, aren't they?
No, don't worry. That's just the Scooby-Doo moment where it's like, you thought you'd get away with it. There's more.
Okay.
He then carries on to say,
This is not the Albans' fault, because they followed their leader just as you would have if I had wanted to move our troops' position. Mettius is responsible for the retreat. Mettius started the war, and Mettius broke the treaty between Rome and Alba. I will give this man a special punishment, so that no one else dares to think about such treachery again.
So you have to walk under like a plank as well.
it's 2 sticks.
Yeah. It's not looking good for Mettius Fufetius.
No.
I'm gonna lose the ability to say that brilliant name soon.
Yeah, pretty much. But, like any good showman, Tullus keeps the people waiting.
Okay.
He doesn't go straight in. Before punishing Tullus, he tells the Albans that he's finally going to reunite the Roman and Alban people and put them back into one people again.
Yeah, but basically what he's saying is that the Albans need to pack up, leave Alba longer and head to Rome because they can't be trusted to have their own city.
They've been naughty.
They've been naughty.
You sit where I can see you.
Literally. But then, once he's told everybody what's happening next, he then turns on Mettius. And
Right,
he says
okay.
the following.
Mettius Fufetius, if you could learn loyalty and keep promises, I would teach you and let you live. Not looking good.
So is that it? You just-
No.
Okay.
Not quite. Then he had Mettius tied to 2 4-horse-drawn chariots, and the horses were driven off in different directions. His body was torn apart, and pieces of his limbs still were attached to the chariots as they moved away from one another.
Lovely stuff.
I
I'm
know.
quite worried that she's so gleeful when she's reading.
Did the torso just like plop on the floor then?
I guess it would be split and dragged.
Well, I think your legs and your arms had come off like a bit quicker, so then would the rest of it just like fall on
Do
the
you know
floor?
what?
Just like
Having
a-
never done this,
Just like a pillow.
Yeah.
a soggy, leaking pillow.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Having never done this, I honestly couldn't say.
I'm not really keen to do like the tests for it either.
No. I'd
Just
rather
think about
not
it
find
as
out.
easy, like, you know, in terms of a chicken. So it's easier to
I'm not going
pull.
to do it to a chicken either. Why
No,
is
I
wrong
mean,
with you?
like, I mean when it's,
Also, where do you find 2 chariots
I
lying
mean when
around?
it's not alive. I'm not
Yeah,
that
mate, can I borrow
horrible.
your chariot to pull this chicken
But it's
apart?
easier to pull off a chicken leg, right? Obviously, when it's a dead chicken, not a live chicken. I mean, like when you buy from a supermarket. It's easier to pull off a chicken leg than it is to pull apart, like,
A
the
live
middle
chicken.
bit of a chicken, isn't it? So I think the arms and legs would come off and the rest of it would just be left on the floor.
Does Levy not tell us that? He's not going into specifics.
No.
No.
It does say it was a very horrible punishment and everyone had to look away.
God.
I'd be the one person like that.
Like taking notes. I thought the arms and legs would go
Yeah.
first.
It's a bit like a chicken, that, isn't it? Oh, so yeah, Mettius Fufetius is now
Game over.
Mettius and Fufetius
Oh.
in
Terriers.
two different places at once.
There are numerous Mettius Fufetiuses.
Mettii Fufetius.
Yes.
So after he's had Mettius Fufetius dragged in half,
Like a chicken.
like a chicken apparently.
Yeah.
He's a little bit different than Captain Beige who came before him, wasn't he?
Captain Beige. Yeah, no, that's true, but he's not all blood and guts.
Just
They're
most of
mostly
it.
all over the floor, yeah. And like I said, there's still the little matter of the Alban people to deal with.
Yeah, no city for them. Come and sit on Rome's naughty step. That's basically what's happened to them.
So how does that go down?
Well, interestingly, the way Livy describes events takes a real kind of downturn, you know, from all the fighting and the battle. He obviously wants you to feel kind of really quite pained about what happens next.
But not for Mettius getting ripped in half.
No. Forget that guy. So, Livy starts by saying,
Horsemen had been sent to Alba to lead the people to Rome, and then the soldiers were sent to destroy the city.
oh no.
Oh no. When they entered the city, there was no fear or panic, as there usually is in a captured city. Very calm, isn't it?
Very sad. But there's more.
There was more. Instead, there was a sad silence and a quiet misery in everyone's minds. They were dumbstruck by fear. not knowing what they should take or leave behind.
Oh.
Yeah.
And finally he ends with,
The shouts of the horsemen ordering them to leave got more insistent, and they could hear the crash of the buildings being destroyed on the edges of the city, and see the dust rising into the air in a thick cloud. Now taking what they could, they left their homes where they had grown up and their household gods. Now a continuous line of people leaving filled the streets, and when they saw the others, they despaired and cried more.
Oh.
Well, it's sad, isn't it?
there's one final footnote.
Yeah, in 1 hour, they turned 400 years' work into ruins.
God.
But, he leaves the temples alone because, he doesn't want to mess with the gods, does he?
Fair-
That'd be too
well,
bad.
So we just pulled down the rest of the city?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Right, okay.
And they all go off to Rome to live on the naughty step.
Right, fair enough.
Well, they literally would be living on a step, wouldn't they? He just basically took all of their houses,
Burnt it down.
burnt it
Yeah.
down, and left them with a few minutes to just gather what they can and then run off.
More of a slow, sad walk, I guess, rather than run.
So yeah, they are literally just going to be homeless.
Yeah.
Aren't Rome just creating a massive problem for themselves though? Because they're just bungling in a load of immigrants with nowhere for them to go.
But that's what they've always done. As long as they're bringing women,
Yeah.
that's fine. And the temples are fine. So again, we've got to that point in these where we have to pick out some of these key threads. And funnily enough, it's the same one for the kings of Rome, myth and reality. Obviously, if we're looking at the story of Tullus and Mettius Fufetius, before we question the legitimacy of the name, a couple of things. This bit is obviously really, really detailed. Livy's saying this is pretty much exactly what Tullus suggested, or what Tullus said, which would strongly suggest this is a flight of fancy.
Yeah, and also could we say it's something that the Romans are using as kind of a moral lesson. So it's something that he's saying,
Don't
look,
scuttle away from
yeah,
battle, otherwise we'll pull
this
you
is
out
what
of the
happens
chariot.
if you do the dirty on the Romans. It's kind of a warning, isn't it, against treason?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But there's also, I think, this element that the Romans are kind of bolstering themselves up, saying, look how kind of honourable we are
Yeah,
in
when-
battle, and look what other people
We're
do.
great in battle, those guys suck.
I was going to say, it's like,
But also, we're not going to punish everyone. We're going to punish the guy whose fault it
we
was.
did also rip down their city.
I was going to say, they say they're not going to punish them, but they are punishing them, so
Yeah, but degrees of punishment. It's not like they're pulling all the Albans to pieces.
no, I suppose not.
But yeah, in this story, they come off as they did the right thing. They did
Yeah.
what they said they were going to do, and also they beat two armies by themselves.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
basically, Rome is awesome.
Rome is awesome, Mettius sucks, and the Albans are on the naughty step.
Yeah.
Again, there's other little things like this idea with reuniting Alba Longa and the Romans. It's all tying back to the Aeneas myth, trying to make one kind of continuous narrative where maybe there isn't a narrative. We can also suggest as well that it sort of shows a very kind of on-off relationship with its colony cities at this time. So they're part of Rome, but they're rebelling. And it's almost as if to say, maybe it would be better controlled centrally, maybe by one man.
Is this
That
also
one
like
man could also be...
Let me guess. Augustus!
Of course.
if this is all tying back to Augustus and
Yeah.
his narrative for how Rome should be, then at this point in history, they've not long put down Antony and Cleopatra, and essentially like Egypt rising up against him, got slapped down.
Got slapped down.
So they're like,
leaders punished.
yeah. So this is very, very it's marrying up very well.
Yeah, it's you can see it as a bit of kind of propaganda for imperial rule and imperial Rome.
Yeah.
That you need one strong, central, awesome guy in the middle to make sure everything is done right, and that guy is...
Augustus. But it's also, isn't
Your
it?
boyfriend.
My
Yeah.
boyfriend. I wish he was. But it's also the kind of the growth of Rome. So it's kind of saying, look how great we are because we started off like this, and yet we've grown into this. So it's kind of another marker for them, isn't it, on their kind of developmental road to becoming this amazing empire. To like show how they've got from being so small to being so big and so developed and so kind of calm, I suppose. So that
don't think Mettius would agree. I mean, I get what you mean. It's like when you get like toddlers' book of firsts, it's like, this is their first shoe, this is their first tooth that fell out, this is the first time they pulled a man in half with chariots, this is the first time they crushed a rebellion. So yeah, no, it is. It's a marker. For early development.
So if the Albans were put on the naughty step, what happened to the VA and what were the other ones?
Were they
just wiped out?
They just went, yeah, sorry, we won't do that again. Until a few years later.
Right, okay.
So there you have it, our series of unfortunate events leading to the untimely death of Mettius Fufetius. Thank you for listening. We hope this has been helpful. Leave us a comment below, and until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.